So, loving awareness. In a way, it's impossible to really speak about it, which is why we're going to practice. It's also a joy-filled endeavor for me to attempt. Essentially, what I'm going to share is more or less my personal practice. This is what I do every day. This is how I relate to my experience. I've done this in groups. I've done this individually. There's people in this space I've done this practice with individually. It's more or less what I've gleaned from my time with Ram Dass, study of texts, time sitting in Buddhist meditation retreats. When we talk about Ram Dass loving everything, it really was real. I would see him sometimes just up in his study. I'd come up to ask him a question, and I didn't just catch him on his phone or sees me putting it away, or he wasn't watching the news, or he was just sitting there. Sometimes he'd be reading, but the vast majority of the time he was just sitting there, just be looking out over the ocean, really present and content. And most of my big questions I asked him were in the first few months when I was there. Because I'm there, I'm with my spiritual teacher, I should ask him something. Over time, it became apparent that the teachings had more to do with being around his being. But in those first few months, I asked him, I said, Ram Dass, what does your practice look like today? Right? Ram Dass had sat and did month-long Vipassana sits, had spent time in India with saints, had done really intensive yoga practice, like the classical Ashtanga yoga system, right? The old Eightfold Path. Led a life of service, death and dying work, right? And I see him at this space where he's just so present and loving. So I wanted to know, what is your practice? And I'll say it the way that he said it the first time, there was this long pause, and he said, I just hang out with Maharaji. Yeah. He just hung out with his guru. Later, I heard him say, I hang out with my guru and I love everything in the universe. And that points to what I was speaking of last night, where Ram Dass lived in a world of Guru Kripa, where he saw everything as the grace of the guru. So for him, Maharaji was synonymous with God, right? That was his form, his personal highest form of the divine. And he saw Maharaji everywhere. Yeah. So when he talks about loving his pain, that was both a state he was in. It was also a practice, right? I mean, he told me at one point in time, he was actively practicing loving his pain at night as he was falling asleep, right? And so I don't want to extrapolate his inner meanings. I'll just share what I've taken from that. But if God is really everywhere, and if I want to be as close as possible to that great love, then that means nothing can be left out. Yeah. So even my most difficult experiences is an opportunity to practice love. And loving awareness is a really beautiful word because it, in a way, captures a pretty broad spectrum of the path. So we have awareness practices where we practice releasing clinging in the mind. Yeah. If your mind's anything like mine, it's constantly judging, trying to push away, trying to grab at experience, trying to see how something could be a little bit better, right? Just constantly trying to manage and manipulate experience, right? Releasing clinging in the mind allows me to open up into awareness. There's also love practices. In bhakti yoga, devotional yoga, kirtan, what we did last night, would be a way of practicing love, where we're actively opening the heart, right? We're actively allowing our heart to love God, to love that great expanse. Because if it's true that our awareness, our soul, our true self is naturally loving, then we don't have to wait to be some great saint, right? We can practice loving right now with where we're at, what our experience is. A couple things with that. One of the biggest things that I've seen in doing my one-on-one work with people is when we feel like we're struggling to love, it's normally because we're still using concepts to do it. And so here's an example. Someone really pissed me off and I want to love them, but I just can't. They make me so mad. Well, we can take a step back from that. Yeah? What's happening there? There's anger that's being experienced in the body, and there's thoughts that are just ruminating, talking about all the things this person did to make us upset. We could start right there with that, right? We can love the sensations in our body. We can hold that anger in love, right? Those thoughts, they're just thoughts. We can practice seeing them as thoughts. And we can even learn to love the thoughts simply because they exist. Not because of any meaning or just because it's a manifestation of the fabric of reality. So, one pathway, one practice to do this is using mantra. And this isn't something that I've just made up. There's ancient practices associated with this, and this is something that Ram Dass has talked about. There's early talks of him talking about how one of the ways he would relate to his mantras is to, as he would say, Ramize everything. So he's going in the supermarket internally, Ram, 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 right? Stating the holy name. And that's reminding him that everything that he sees, right? The person at the cash register, the box of cereal, like the lights, the fluorescent lighting, right? All of that is a manifestation. And that can even be taken to extremes. There's another Ram Dass named Papa Ram Dass, who wrote a beautiful book. It's like an autobiography of the life of a sadhu. And it got so deep for him that at one point he was sleeping next to a river and he couldn't sleep because the mosquitoes were keeping him awake. And so he was praising the mosquitoes. He was praising them as a manifestation of Ram and thanking them for keeping him awake because it meant he could praise Ram more. But wherever we're at, we can practice and we can start there. So, question, a little show of hands. Is there anyone in this space that already has some personal relationship with mantra? They practice that in some degree in their life. Great. So if you have a mantra that you already use internally, when we're doing this practice, you can just use that mantra. If you don't, and you don't want to have to decide right now in this moment what mantra to use, I'm going to offer two. One is Ram. It's really simple. And it's the mantra Ram Dass used. It's the mantra that Neem Karoli Baba would often instruct people to use. It's the one you could see. It was said that Maharaji, if you caught him in little moments, his mouth would be moving. Right? Ram just moving silently. And all of these mantras that we're going to use are just the holy name. So it's all the same thing. The other option, which is my favorite mantra, is Sitaram. So it's your personal choice. But we're going to use the mantra as our anchor for this practice to come into contact with loving awareness. And it's going to take a few different forms over the course of an hour. And I promise that's not as scary as it might sound right now. So we're going to sync the mantra with our breath. If you have malas and you want to use them, you can. Mine recently broke. I don't think you're even supposed to use broken malas, but I do because I like them. But the idea is, if you have some, you're welcome to use it. In addition, generally, it rests on this finger here. The index finger gets out of the way because it's said to be associated with the ego. We just move with each mantra like this, except it's in a circle, right? And when we get to the other side, to the guru bead, we can internally bow down to the guru in our mind, and then we don't go over the guru bead. We switch directions and then go back the other way. So if you want an extra aid, you can. If you want an additional, if you don't have one, you can just do something as simple as this. Right? There's no need to do any counting right now. So, but sometimes a physical sensation can help us not get lost. But our main mala is going to be the breath. So we're going to sync the mantra with the breath. So if we're doing a really short mantra like Ram, internally we'll recite it on the inhale, and internally we'll recite it on the exhale. If you want to do Sitaram, you can do Sita on the inhale and Ram on the exhale. If you have your own personal mantra, and you don't have much experience syncing it with the breath, you can play a little bit and see what pace and rhythm sounds good, right? Maybe Om Namah Shivaya, for instance, that might feel really good to do on each inhale and exhale, but maybe you want to do Om Namah on the inhale, Shivaya on the exhale, something like that. But after a little bit of experimenting, my recommendation is to commit so that we can get decision-making mind out of the way. So, taking our comfortable seat, we're going to start with the breath. Somehow we're feeling our breath through the sensations in the body. Maybe we feel the breath come through the nostrils, the back of the throat. We feel some subtle movement in the chest as it rises and falls. or in the belly. Nice soft belly. It expands and contracts with the breath. And on each inhale and each exhale, we'll recite our mantra. For myself, on my inhale, I say Sita, and then Ram. For the next few minutes, we're going to do this simple act of just breathing in and out the mantra. And if your mind is anything like mine, it'll get distracted, it'll get lost in thought. That's okay. Because the mantra reminds us that those thoughts are God too. The second that we notice we're lost in thought, we just come back to the breath, to the body, to the mantra. As we're practicing with the breath and the mantra, maybe we notice that our body could be a little bit more comfortable. Maybe we sit up a little bit taller. Maybe we soften in our shoulders or our jaw or our forehead or our hands. Maybe we allow our hips to be a little bit heavier, allowing the ground to hold us up, allowing the spine to hold us up. Right? We lovingly attend to our body. Then we return to the breath and the mantra. Periodically, I'm going to say some phrases throughout the practice. And it doesn't matter if you believe them or not. You don't have to believe anything. They're just there as potential openings, reminders, as we continue this simple practice, breathing in and breathing out the divine. Breathing in and breathing out love. Of greeting all of our experience with the soft, merciful, gentle nature of love. arises in the mind. And the holy name reminds us that it's just a thought, and also that it's holy because it exists for no other reason but that existence is holy. Some thoughts might just come and go, random thoughts. Others can stick around for a while, and some can be associated with pretty big emotions. Our mind and our bodies aren't really separate. Through paying attention like this, it becomes very apparent. So not only can we greet our thoughts with the mantra, but also the sensations that arise in the body. Maybe anger or sadness, stress or anxiety, joy, maybe muscle tension we're starting to feel. Can we greet it with the mantra? Almost like we're kissing our experience with the holy name. Using the breath as our anchor, the inhale and the exhale. Now, rooted with the breath and the mantra, we're going to systematically scan through our bodies, similar to how we did this morning. We'll start at the top of the head. So as we inhale, we can bring our attention to the top of the head. On the exhale, we can allow ourselves to be present, to soften, to be aware of the sensations present there. All the while greeting our experience with the mantra. So breathing in, we're aware of what the top of the head feels like. On the exhale, we're present with it, soft with it. Breathing in, bringing our mind to the top of the head. Breathing out, aware of all of the sensations that are present. We're not trying to make it feel a certain way. We're not trying to look for something. We're just aware of what's actually there. And we're greeting it with the mantra, with the holy name. Reminding us that that too is holy and lovable. That the top of our head is not separate from existence. It's not separate from God. Breathing in, we can move down to the forehead. On each inhale, bringing our awareness there. Each exhale, aware, present, soft, softening. If there's any tension that we don't need to hold on to, we can release it. Some forms of tension are just there, so we can soften around it. Greeting it with the holy name. Moving down to the eyes. So much sensation in the eyes. The eye sockets. The cheeks, the cheekbones. Greeting it with the mantra. Greeting it with love. The nose, the lips, the jaw. Let's spend a little time in the jaw. Our jaws work really hard. Most of us hold tension in the jaw. Can we allow ourselves to soften there? Just holding the jaws in so much love. Can we greet the sensations in our jaw like we're greeting our beloved? Sitaram. And the neck. The neck meets the skull. where the neck meets the back and the shoulders. Some forms of tension we can soften, others we just soften around. We just hold it in love. Right? Can we even hold the tension in our own body with love? We can fight it later. We can take care of it later. We can go get massage later. But right now, there's nothing to do. And it's here and it exists. So, this moment, can we greet it lovingly with the mantra? The shoulders. It's up to you if you want to focus on each shoulder separately or if you want to be aware of them at the same time. On the inhale, often the shoulders raise a little bit with the breath. The exhale, they drop down a little bit. And the same thing with the arms. It's your choice. You want to do each arm separately or all together. We can move down from the shoulders into the upper arm, the biceps. Just feeling all the sensations present. Maybe there's warmth or cold, tingling, tension. Maybe there's numbness. Sometimes we think of numbness as the absence of sensation, but what's interesting is that we can actually feel numbness. Can we just be present? Can we hold that in love? Greet it as a perfect manifestation of existence in the moment. See it as a manifestation of the Guru. Ram Dass said, I just hang out with my Guru and love everything in the universe. That includes the sensations in our body, moving down to the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, the hands, the fingers, the back of the hands, the palms of the hand. And then moving up to the chest. Maybe the first thing we notice is that there's movement in the chest with the breath. Can we notice any other sensations there too? What about the space between the inhale and the exhale? What about the upper back? If the chest is moving with the breath, then the back is probably moving too. Greeting it with the breath and the mantra. Moving down to the belly. Are we holding any tension in the belly? Do we need to be? Can we soften? Is there any tension that's just there? Can we hold it in love? I don't know about you, but I'm not willing to wait until I'm completely free to start loving. that means I want to love even my own resistance to the moment, trusting that it'll release when it's time. What about the low and mid back? What's present? What's real? Greeting it with the mantra. The hips. The hips are holding up our whole body. Maybe we feel pressure, the hips as they press into the seat. Maybe we feel a sense of weight, of heaviness. What else is present there? Can we greet it with love? Moving down to the legs, the upper legs, the thighs. Greeting it with the holy name. Remembering how we sang last night, those moments of love and connection. This is the manifestation of that beloved, this moment right now. The knees, the lower legs, the shins, the calf. The ankles. The feet. Now, we're going to start to become aware of the whole body altogether, using the breath and the mantra as our anchor. So, with our awareness starting at our feet, on the inhale, we're going to slowly bring our awareness to the top of our head. On the exhale, we're going to sweep our awareness down to our feet. In this way, it's like we're breathing through the entire body, aware of all the sensations along the way. Inhaling up from the feet to the top of the head. Exhaling down back to the feet. Some areas might be louder than others. Some areas, maybe it's hard to notice. Some areas might be quite pleasant. Some areas might even be screaming. Just greeting it all with the mantra. Aware of it all. Releasing clinging where we can. And holding our clinging in love. So now for a moment, see if we can be aware of the entire body at once. almost like we're giving up the idea that we're doing anything or meditating at all. Still with the breath and the mantra going. Reminding us that this is the holy moment. This sea of experience, the suffering, the grace, the tension, the spaciousness. We hear the sounds. All the sounds present are a part of this sea of experience held in our loving awareness. In fact, this sea of experience is our loving awareness. And our thoughts, too, are part of this sea. It's also an experience that's happening in this moment. And the mantra reminds us of that. Any point in time you feel like you're getting too lost in thought, you can really focus on the breath. You can scan your body again. You can breathe from the feet to the top of the head. And then if it's available to you, you can also just let go. Almost like the mantra is breathing us. Just open, loving awareness. And if your eyes are closed, at some point, when it feels ready to you, we're still practicing, we're not stopping. But if you open your eyes, this too is a part of the sea of experience that is the loving awareness of this moment. Sitaram is all of it. Sitaram is love. Sitaram is Sitaram. Ram Dass loved his wheelchair and the pain in his body because he also loved the ceiling and the floor. It's both a state and also a practice. If we feel frustrated, we just turn our love to the frustration. Sometimes we think of love as like this blanket that we can cover up our experience with, like it'll make it more pleasant. but it's more like a full opening up, a releasing of our resistance. And wherever we're at, we can practice holding that in love, including our resistance. So we're almost done with our sitting practice. But we'll be sitting for a few more minutes and taking this moment and making sure we're comfortable again. So remembering the breathing is happening. Right? We don't have to breathe. We breathe thousands of times throughout the day. So remembering that the breath is happening and the mantra is there is this ancient friend syncing with the breath, reminding us that this too is the holy moment. And just as the mantra is a sonic representation of the divine, a sonic reminder of the inherent divinity of existence, altars, images of saintly beings, of teachers, of deities, are visual representations, visual reminders. So we look at the altar, and it reminds us that everything else in our field of experience, everything in the corner of our eye, the way the light bounces across the room, the thoughts still floating through our mind, the sensations in our body, all of it is holy. So we're going to sit for a few minutes, and the practice is our own. If you want to close your eyes at some point, get reacquainted with the body, if you want to open your eyes, if there's a particular image or deity on the altar that really draws your attention and you want to lock your eyes there, right? We just trust our heart in this moment, what we need in the moment. And I'm going to sing for a few minutes. You don't have to sing with. It can just be another sound in your field of experience. But if your heart calls to, you can sing along. It doesn't have to be call and response. Sitaram, 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 Sitaram. rush to the next thing, we can slowly stand up, feeling all the sensations in our body, and continue looking at the altar. Sometimes it feels scary to be the first one. But whoever's feeling brave can start standing. Sitaram, Sitaram, Sitaram. Notice how our bodies feel now compared to when we were sitting. Sitaram, 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 Sitaram. Noticing our feet on the floor. So what's going to happen now, as we're starting to move around, is we're going to continue to practice. And over the next 5 minutes or so, when it feels right, you can start to leave the space. And I recommend that you spend at least 10 to 15 minutes on your own, walking with the mantra, practicing integrating in that way. At some point in time, it'll just feel natural to start engaging with people again. But we don't have to stop practicing for the rest of the day. And maybe we'll catch in our vision just some of the other people in this space, our satsang, our sacred community, and maybe their God too. Sitaram, 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 There's some really beautiful Hanuman temples and some shrines to Mother Mary that are in the garden. If you explore the trail at the bottom of the campground, there's a forest Hanuman. You go to the right, across the bridge. So this is a nice time to be quiet in nature, the mantra. Lunch is at noon. Come around with the bow before. And I just really love and appreciate you all.